It was a very inspirational talk, the talk just before this one. I was sitting in the audience and I was like so inspired with the whole thing. I'm still sinking into the whole talk. Sharath happens to be my college senior, 1 year senior at BITS Pilani. We were in the same hostel. We used to run into each other in corridors, but only after that we passed out of BITS Pilani, I came to know so much story of him. Very inspirational, Sharath. I don't know where you are. Okay, coming to our story is the entrepreneurship story. I think it in some ways begins from where Sharath has left. He just touched about Food Cake, and I'm going to talk more about our business from there on. So how did we start our business, what's happening, where are we 5-6 years later, and then we'll take Q&A. Okay. Okay. So we are Redbus. Redbus is India's largest bus ticketing company. We're largest in almost all the aspects, largest in aggregation, largest in distribution, largest in sales, highest in manpower, present all over the country in about 22 states, almost largest in all the aspects. And what we do is we sell bus tickets. We sell bus tickets on internet, through call centers, through outlets, through mobile, through DTH television, we are a format independent bus ticketing company. Okay, we've deliberately chosen this because we felt that we deliberately don't call ourselves an online bus ticketing company, because the whole reason of why we exist is because the existing travel agents didn't realize the power of internet. So they were doing their business in their regular way, and then there came the whole power of internet, and because of which we came into presence. Tomorrow, we didn't want to become obsolete when mobile becomes even more powerful, right? And then there's another company which comes and does mobile ticketing, and then we are out of the business. So we told ourselves that change is the only thing which is constant. So we have to be ready for that change, and we have to keep telling ourselves that that we are a bus. What is core to us is a bus ticketing, and the formats keep changing, right? Okay, this is just a 4 or 5 slide presentation. Going to the next slide. So this is the story of Redbus as to why we started. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so this is the story of Redbus, the famous Diwali story of 2005. So why Redbus started is because I wanted to buy a bus ticket. I was working in Bangalore and my parents were in Hyderabad. I used to take buses frequently, and then during Diwali 2005, I went to a travel agent to book a ticket. And the modus operandi there is, when you go to a travel agent makes a phone call to the bus operator to find out if they have any seats, right? The same thing happened to me. So when I went to this travel agent, he made a few phone calls. He made about 3-4 phone calls and told me there were no seats. And then I said, okay, fine. And I was leaving his office. Just when I was leaving his office, he told me that maybe another travel agent could get me a seat. And that really intrigued me. If you are a travel agent for an operator, why are you not able to get me a seat, whereas another travel agent could get me a seat, right? And anyway, I went to the other travel agent. He also made a few phone calls and told me there were no seats. Then I went to the third one, fourth one, fifth one. All of them made like 2-3 phone calls and told me that there were no seats. And then I ended up being in Bangalore for the long weekend. And the next day when I woke up, right, I was feeling very guilty, because maybe there was a 10th travel agent to whom if I had gone to, he would have probably called the 30th bus operator and maybe he had a seat, right? And if indeed that 30th bus operator had a seat which went vacant from Bangalore to Hyderabad that evening, that was a loss to a bus operator, because he burns the same amount of fuel, same driver, same everything for him to run the bus that evening, just that he would get 1 seat less. And that was a loss to him. And I thought, if indeed that operator had a seat, it was a loss to a travel agent, because he had a customer in front of him, but just didn't know which of these 30 operators to call to. Maybe he called the wrong operator. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. And similarly, it was a loss to me as a customer, because I desperately wanted to be home that evening and just didn't know which operator to call or which agent to go to. So all the 3 of us were losing because the information wasn't seamlessly available across the 3 constituents of the industry. Okay? Is it too much technology and business, or it's okay?
It's okay.
Okay, fine. So that was a problem, that I faced. Then I thought, why can't there be, I mean, being an engineer, for me the answer was very obvious. why can't there be a computer system where all the bus operators put the number of seats they have and all the travel agents pick up inventory from their first come, first serve? What it meant is, I was visualizing a website where all the bus operators put seats, and when I go to travel agent number 1, he would just log on to that website and see which are all the bus operators who are running buses from A to B and how many seats are available at that point in time. And then he can specifically call that bus operator who has seats, right? Or the other way is he can confidently tell me that there are no seats in the industry so that I don't have to go to these multiple travel agents. Right? So that was a solution that was running in my mind, and then we came up with these 3 products. The first one is called BOSS. It stands for Bus Operator Software System. This is a software which is given to the bus operators for them to manage their operations. Right? Today, hundreds of bus operators across the country use BOSS, because of which we get real-time access to which are the buses they are running, what are their timings, what are the fares, how many seats are available in each one of these buses. We get real-time access to all that inventory. We take that information and put it on redbus.in for consumers to use. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's going down. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then, so the redbus.in is the consumer-facing software of the same ecosystem. And then we realized that all this information is also useful to travel agents, because when they log in, they get access to all the inventory. So that's how we created the third software called Seat Seller. So Seat Seller is for travel agents, Redbus is for consumers, BOSS is for bus operators. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is happening between these 3 softwares is a nice network is being set. With more and more bus operators getting onto BOSS, more and more travel agents get attracted onto Seat Seller. And again, with more and more travel agents on Seat Seller, the next bus operator will come and join BOSS, and hence the whole network gets set. And that is the power of the business. It continues to fuel itself and continues to grow by itself. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Another interesting thing in our business is the supply side. On the supply side, there are hundreds of thousands of travel agents, and each one of them is so small that they cannot create software by themselves. And hence, a software which is created once but used by hundreds of bus operators becomes a very viable product. Right? Let's say cost of building BOSS is 1 lakh, and then you give the software to 100 bus operators, so the cost for each one of them will be 1,000 rupees. Right? So that is a compelling proposition why these bus operators will use BOSS. And similarly from consumer side, compare it with airlines. If you want to buy an airline ticket, there are probably 4 airlines in the country. So person who wants to buy airline ticket probably can go to these 4 websites and buy a ticket. Similarly for railways, there's only 1 railways in the country, which is the government run. So if you want to buy a railway ticket, you can just get onto their website and buy. But if you want to buy a bus ticket, you will have to go onto hundreds of websites to figure out the seat that you want, because there are hundreds of bus operators there. Right? So that makes it a very compelling proposition for customers to get onto Redbus. Okay? Okay. So the reason why, there is a reason why bus operators are on the network, and there is a reason why customers are onto the network. Right? That also makes the business again very strong. Then the other question, okay, the business is strong, you have all the 3 products, it is growing by itself, but how big can you become? Right? If the whole value of the industry is only 1 crore, right? The largest ever size that we can ever grow to is only 1 crore, because the industry is only 1 crore worth, right? Then the next question came as to how big is the industry. Then we went and saw that it's a $2.5 billion business, which means it's about 15,000 crores worth business, right? It's a large business. About 220 million seats sold every year, and the industry is growing at about 25% per annum, which is, it's not only large, but it's also growing at 25% per annum. Okay? Okay. So that's about our business. This is the last slide. Quick snapshot about the company. So we've been growing aggressively. This is the reason, this is our claim to fame. This is the reason why I'm invited to come and speak here. So the first year we did about 50 lakhs, and the latest year we did about 350 crores. And the year before we did about 100 odd crores. And this year we are expected to do about 700-800 crores. That's the pace at which we've been growing. Thank you. So the exponential curve, which most of us would like to see in our business, is something that we relish. Which means, if you look at the last year, the difference between one month to another month, if it is this much, this year the same difference in growth between this month to the next month is this much, right? So that's the big differentiator, but that also gets a lot of complexity. Revenue just doesn't come by itself. We have to also scale up that much. We need to have so many more call centers, we need to have so many more servers, so many more people, so much more complexity, right? The other one is we are a 6-year-old company headquartered in Bangalore. We have about 26 offices in about 22 states in the country, including Rajasthan. We are about 500 people. We work with about 800 bus operators, about 90,000 schedules every day, including 3 government operators. The latest one is the Rajasthan State Transport, which has joined the network. We have about 30,000 point of sale outlets, 10,000 of them are our own, and then 200 partners. These partners are very interesting. So these partners are the partners like websites like Yatra.com, Expedia, any and every website. The thing is, between the 3 products that we have, with SeatSeller, we power almost every bus ticketing that is sold in the country today. If you ever get a printed bus ticket, there's a huge chance that it is touching one or the other technologies of ours. And hence, we make some money out of every printed bus ticket out there in the country. And the last one is, we'll be amongst the highest transacted websites in the country today. And all this without any advertisement, right? I mean, the only advertisement that we do is SEO and SEM, but otherwise it is grown because of word of mouth. People who know of us come and transact with us, and if they like us, they get more of their friends to come and transact with us. And we ended up being the highest, amongst the highest transacted websites in the country just by people getting more and more customers. Thank you.
Redbus. Why the name is Redbus?
Okay, sure. There is an interesting story as to why it is called Redbus. There are multiple reasons which are running in our mind when we are thinking of naming our company. So the first one was we wanted to have a color in our brand name because we thought advertising becomes so much more easier, right? We imagined actually that when people see that color, they will think of us, and marketing becomes so much more easier, and etc. And then we also realized that we are a website company, which meant that out of all the colors that we have, we had to choose a color which had the smallest spelling because we are a website company. I mean, imagine if you call it Yellow Bus, right? It had 2 L's, and when people try to reach our website, if they drop 1 L, they go to another website, right? If we call it green, again, there are 2 E's in it. People could again make a mistake and go to another website. And white is such a complex spelling, right? So we said, okay, let's choose a color which has a smaller spelling, and phonetically, people should not make a mistake. I mean, red can only be spelled as RED. It cannot be spelled in any other way, right? So that's how we chose the color red. And then we justified saying that it also stands for young, energy and all that.
That's a colorful logo, chat as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So moving on, like when we talk to students who are in schools or colleges, so they have this tendency that they have the resource limitation in their mindset. For example, if someone wants to start their own venture or they want to move out, say they always have this tendency, okay, they have less resources, how they start a bootstrapping. So for a startup, like especially you talk about the segment which you are into, which is IT. So how tough it is to start off, and then how tough it is to scale up, because there are ventures in this industry. The whole companies die out very fast as well. So how you sustain it?
I think, I mean, the way we follow is the slow and steady. So you can also see...
Not slow.
No, if you see from the graph, I mean, initial days were slow. So basically, the way we went ahead is we laid a very strong foundation in the initial days. We were not, even today, we are not so much about the growth. Growth is a after effect that has been happening. But we think about how do we lay this strong foundation, how does every customer who calls us, how does every customer who transacts with us get a good service. And then the growth is an after effect of all that. Yeah.
For a startup, what are the three primary, sources or the parameters to start off and then to take it further?
Okay. So the rule number one is get strong mentors. Actually, mentoring has been really helpful to us. When we wanted to start this business, we were just engineers, had this idea, and then we wanted to create a solution. We didn't know anything about setting up a company, recruiting people, setting up branch offices, running the whole machinery of an organization and a brand and etc. and all that. Actually, we came across mentors, and those mentors actually walked us through this whole path. They taught us how to do recruitment, they taught us how to raise capital, they taught us what are the principles of organization. They taught us all these things and then walked us through this path of entrepreneurship. And I think the second rule is again, figure out who's the right mentor for you. And the third rule is completely trust in that mentor. If the mentor asks you to jump off the wall, jump off the wall. Because that is what you are trying to get from a mentor, right? I mean, if mentor tells you what you already know, then there is no value. So mentor is most likely to tell you what you do not know. And if you don't adhere to the third principle of trusting him, then you don't get anything out of it.
Coming to your pivotal point of the mentor, so how to identify a right mentor while you're scaling up startup?
I think it's just being lucky. Yeah, at least in our case, I think we were lucky.
Okay.
But some rules are, we have to weigh down, weigh experience in our domain versus experience, a skill set versus personal click. I would choose for a personal click rather than a skill set. He is like a coach,
okay,
right? He is somebody who is there with you at all times, even if he doesn't know how to write a software code, even if he doesn't know how to do some of these skill sets, because there are always consultants for all these skill sets.
So moving on to the audience, we have now we open the question answer round for the audience.
Obviously, that Redbus is one of the most prominent, site for people to, get across and get educated. But if a customer is like, excited about, running through your site, what all special privileges and things you're providing as per for customer satisfaction?
We are a plain vanilla site. There is nothing extra other than a bus ticket that you can get from our site. And that applies to all the customers.
My name is Arjun. I'm a student in 12th grade. Sir, I want to ask, when you started your business, how did you expanded it? How did you reach to the market? And how did you grew from a small company to a big one?
Okay, sure. So basically when we started, there's a story behind it. When we started, we never thought that we'll set up a company and become businessmen and entrepreneurs ourselves. When we started, we actually wanted to write the software and just give it to the bus operators. We wanted to create it as an open source solution and give it for free. Because we are only interested in solving that problem. We thought if all the operators out there use the software, then the problem is solved because all their inventory is aggregated and it's available on a website and somebody can use. It's like Wikipedia. We thought created by everybody, used by everybody, and nobody earns money out of it. But then one thing led to another. We created it and then we went to the bus operators, wanted to give them the software, but bus operators weren't ready to take the software, and then we were stuck. Because if bus operators don't use this software, there is no way that we can put this inventory on SeatSeller or on Redbus and sell it to customers. And we just didn't know what to do. And we thought it's the end of the idea, we had to drop it. And then I was talking to one of my friends and then he suggested that there is this non-profit organization called TIE. I noticed it somewhere. Yeah,
TIE.
TIE, right? It stands for the Indus Entrepreneurs. So somebody introduced me to TIE. He said, why don't you go and talk to them about your problem? So I went and took membership there, and then they sent out a mailer saying that, okay, if you have a business idea and you're not able to make progress, come and apply to us, we'll give you mentors. And then that was like a big blessing to us. So we went and applied for mentoring there. And then we got mentors from TIE, the Bangalore chapter of TIE. And those mentors really walked us through this whole problem. They said, first thing they said is, bus operators will never take your software because they're not seeing any big gain out of it. There'll be a huge resistance for change, right? They said, go and ask the bus operators as to what they really, really want. Don't give them what you have, right? And then we thought, that is what we've been asking all these days, right? We went to the bus operators and asked them, would you use this software? What do you want in the software? Etc., and all that. And they said, okay, we want this feature. And then taking their inputs, we created the software. And now when we go back to them saying, this is a software as per your specifications, why don't you start using it? They're saying, no, we don't want to use it, right? And we thought, what is this mentor sitting in AC room telling us we should walk the street and then find out the problems there? We've been doing the same thing that he's been asking. Why should we go and ask the operator once again? But then we thought, okay, if we don't listen to what the mentor is saying, we are anyway not making any progress, right? If we listen to him and fail, that is also at the same, we'll remain in the same place. If we don't listen to him also, we'll remain in the same place, right? And we took a chance. We said, okay, fine, let's figure out and heed to the mentor's advice. So we went back to the industry with an open mind and spoke to the bus operators and asked them, what is that you really, really want? Then they said, we don't want anything. We don't want software, we don't want anything. Then I said, but you will need something. What is that something? They said, other than sales, we don't want anything. Right? And then we came back and told our mentors, they said they don't want anything other than sales. And then they said, that is the answer. They give them sales, give them selling bus tickets. And then I don't know how you would do it, but just sell bus tickets for them. And then that really opened our eyes up. Then we said, what are we trying by giving software to them? Rather, we should probably try selling them the tickets, right? Then we dropped the whole idea of BOSS. Then we started writing, we scrapped that whole software of BOSS. We started from ground zero again, writing the software for Redbus. We said Redbus is where we can sell tickets. But the problem there is, if you have Redbus and it's not integrated with bus operator, when a customer comes and searches on your site, let's say Jaipur to Udaipur, and if he doesn't see any seats there, he just says these are the buses which are run. If you want a seat, we will go and get you. He's less likely to buy. In internet, unlike in a physical store, in physical store the customer comes to you. So you can engage him while you find out if there are any seats with the bus operator. But in internet, you don't have that connect with the customer. He just comes. Anytime he may come, anytime he may leave. So when he comes, the seats have to be visible to him for him to make that purchase, right? So we said, yeah, we can create Redbus, but if bus operator is not computerized, how will we sell? But we said we have to figure out a solution, the theory of constraints, right? We said, if this is a constraint and I have to create a solution, how do I create a solution rather than just giving up that there is no solution, right? And then we were thinking, and suddenly an idea struck to us. We said, can we go to the bus operator and say, okay, no worries, don't get computerized, but can you give us 2 seats in each of your bus? What it meant is, in a 40-seater bus, if he gives us 2 seats in each bus, we will upload it on our site as if they are available, and the bus operator should not sell these 2 seats until he sells the other 38 seats. And if he has sold those 38 seats, he should call us for these 2 seats, and then we take off the site and give it to him. The other way, if he had sold these 2 seats, before he sells the 38 seats, we can call the bus operator, take 2 more seats, right? And then upload it on our site, and when a customer came, it worked really beautifully well. I think when the customer came onto our site, he searched, let's say Delhi, Jaipur, and then he saw 5 buses, and each bus had only 2 seats, right? And the customer may have thought that all the other seats are sold out. right? And that put probably that scarcity pushed him to buy the ticket then and there. And slowly customers started buying those seats, and then 2 seats became 4 seats, 4 became 8, 8 became 20, and when they became like more than 20 seats, that's when we went back to the bus operator and started giving boss. Because by then we established trust with the bus operator and credibility with the bus operator that we actually mean business, right? Otherwise we were just kids just fresh out of college, 1-2 years out of college, and then going and pitching them, asking them to change their 20 years of the way they were doing business. I mean, there was no trust. I mean, anybody who comes and says change your whole entire operations, who will change? People will not change, right? But by selling these seats, we could establish credibility, and then slowly bus operators started taking the software, and then once the bus operators started using software, it just spread like a wildfire. It went across the states, across the cities, because once somebody was successful using this software, it was a huge motivation for other people also to jump into getting computerized. So that's how we started, and we kind of expanded across.
Last question.
Good morning, sir. This is Aparna, and you made a beautiful remark that if your mentor asks you to jump off the wall, please do it. This is my request. Please share some incident where your mentor asked you to take a risk and you took a risk.
Okay. Okay. So various things. One thing that I will say, it just stuck to me without thinking too much. So one thing is about what is the culture? I mean, how will you? Every company has a different way of approaching things and different way of solving problems, right? So there was this time during the early days, one year into the business, we just after you close your financials for the year, the tax officials came to our office, right? There was an income tax raid, right? Because we were in all these newspapers saying we're doing big numbers, grown dramatically overnight, and etc. and all. And then suddenly there was a raid by tax officials. They come unannounced, and they were in the office and checking all the records and all the books and seeing if you have paid the taxes well, etc. and all that. And then being a startup, there are so many things that you're doing in the first year. You're setting up office, you're worrying about your business, you're recruiting people, you're just chaotic. And then in the midst of all those things, there are certain things that you may not do it very, very accurately. For example, we actually paid over more than what we should pay as taxes. The thing is, we didn't have those receipts. And those receipts were just, I don't know where they were, nobody filed them in files, they were just floating around, and when they came in, we couldn't show any receipts to them. And then the tax official was saying, okay, no, if you don't have the receipt, then we will put a fine on you. And the fine was about few lakhs, some 10 lakhs or something like that. And 10 lakhs was a huge money in the initial days, and then we didn't know what to do. Then I called up my mentor and I asked him, this is what happened, so what do we do? And the tax official is saying, either pay 10 lakhs fine or pay 2 lakhs bribe. And then everything will be fine, he will write a nice check because he will say, oh, everything is there. And he was also talking to us saying that, yeah, naya company hai na, bahut sare cheez mein rehte hai, this is a regular problem, don't worry, I can walk you out of this, just pay me 2 lakh rupees, right? And we didn't know what to do, so we called the mentor, and the mentor actually pushed us to think through this. And what was running in my mind is, for one to be a businessman, he has to be shrewd. Like in some movies we see, right? And a businessman is like a shrewd, he knows how to play the market, he knows who to tape, who, what, that, this, and etc. And then he becomes like a big businessman, right? I was thinking maybe that's the right way to do business, right? Everything else is probably a bookish knowledge. where people say, oh no, you have to be a good student, you have to be a good ethical guy, and etc. and all that, but in reality maybe it doesn't work. I don't want to be that really very idealistic guy where I jeopardize the whole business and everybody and then be foolish, because every other businessman is being very shrewd and he knows how to play the market. So I called up my mentor, and the mentor actually walked me through this whole thinking and said, you should not bribe. Pay that 10 lakh rupee tax, doesn't matter. I mean, even if you don't have, take a loan and pay that. If you're really, if you're guilty, pay that tax, because you're setting a very strong precedence in your company, because tomorrow if some employee does the same thing to you, right, will this company stand, or it will just collapse after a few years, because there will be so much fraud within the company because you are setting a precedence of doing all this, right? But I very reluctantly, I was thinking, what is this guy again sitting in some AC room and telling me gyan, right, which is not practical. But then I said, okay, fine, I have to trust this mentor. And then I agreed to that, and then I offered to pay that 10 lakh rupee fine. And very interestingly, you know what happened? The tax official said, okay, he actually asked the finance head to come and meet him for dinner. Then the finance head went and met him for dinner, and then he was telling the finance guy, it seems Aapka CEO is a young boy, he doesn't know how to run business, he's collapsing the whole company. Why does he want to pay the 10 lakh fine? Aap to samajhdar ho, unko samjhao. And actually my finance head came to me and said, funny, you are very young, I've seen so many companies where it just happens, I will pay, you don't pay, at least you will have the satisfaction that you have not paid, but with my hands I will pay this bribe and etc. and all that, but I had to console him also, and then we said we will pay that 10 lakh rupee fine. And the tax official actually, after a lot of iterations between him, me, my finance head, etc. and all that, towards the end he said, it's okay. I mean, it's okay, don't pay the fine, don't pay the bribe. I excuse you because this is the first year, there are always certain receipts which will be missing. It's okay, I'll come next year, by then everything should be fine. And that was like a fantastic learning, right? I mean, every time when your ethics or these things are put to test, it is only a test. You have to fight it till the extreme ends, and then you will become a winner. And today in the company, there are like hundreds of crores of money that goes through, and I don't have the check power, I don't look at any one of those. And it is flowing through seamlessly, everything is happening so well. I think that one advice, I would have not, I had a chance not to listen to the mentor, and I thought mentor was foolish. But just by going with his advice, I think changed the whole thing for the organization. Today I have a very good night's sleep. I don't worry about anything. Any tax official coming, any of our offices, anywhere, everything is so neat and clean, and it's such a good satisfaction. If every day, right, I mean, if I utilize any of the money that we are earning, I feel so good, because it's all fair money, right? It is earned by adhering to the rules of the land, and it is all earned with hard work. There is no taking shortcuts and etc. So it gives an immense satisfaction, I mean, overall. So I think things like these, which are very profound in nature, is where the mentor helps. Yeah.
So now we close the session, and just on the conclusion, I think like the value is the main thing which you're talking over here. If you have a strong base, and that's the reason we have the rep growth in the company. And of course, moving on the last question, which is from my side, that does you need to have a mandate or super required to have a degree to get into entrepreneurship? Budding entrepreneurs starting.
Sure. The other question is, okay, do you need an MBA degree to get into? Yeah, so basically I don't have an MBA degree, I'm an engineer, very passionate electronics engineer. As a child, I was very fascinated about electronics because it was like magic to me. You switch on a switch here and suddenly the light glows somewhere else, right? I mean, there was no connection between that light and the switch. I mean, imagine at 6th standard, it was like a huge magic to me. You switch on a switch here and the fan rotates. Suddenly it starts rotating, right? So since then I wanted to study electronics, studied electronics, was working for an electronics company. I was a very passionate engineer, but ended up setting up a company. So I don't think it's mandatory that somebody needs education or MBA to be an entrepreneur, but I think it will be very, very helpful to be an MBA. Like for example, I would have been much better off probably doing an MBA because so many things are probably taught there. As an engineer, finances are never taught to me. I never could read a balance sheet. I mean, I could not read a balance sheet until 3 years into business. Only, I think about 2-3 years back, I started to understand what our financials actually said, right? There are so many things like this. Doing regression analysis, data crunching. I never used an Excel sheet as an engineer. But as a business entrepreneur, every day you have to look at Excel sheets and say which centers are doing well, which routes are not doing well, which operators are doing well, and etc. Strategy comes out of those number crunching. So I think those are things which are taught at MBA, and I would strongly urge that people be very well equipped by education and experience before they get into entrepreneurship.
Thanks a lot, Mani. I'm sure that for all the budding entrepreneurs, the startups, it would be an eye-opener session that how you can start up and scale up. So it was a pleasure having you over the this forum chat. Sure. And look forward to more interactions.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.